Hey, welcome back, Veteran Nation fans. And today is a really exciting show. But before we get into it, I want everybody to go to www.nrnplus.com/VN. That's the show's landing page. You can subscribe to NRN. You can subscribe to this show. You're going to support all the great shows that we have here on NRN. And it's going to be $79.95 for the year, or you can pay $9.95 for the month, your choice. But either way, you're going to be supporting us, supporting everything we do. And also, I'm going to remind you, if you're on Facebook, go to our Facebook group, Veteran Nation, join our conversation there. Tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, who you'd like to see us talk to. So today, it's a very exciting interview that we have. We've got General Bolduc, who is retired Special Forces, and he's running for Senate in New Hampshire. General, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here, and I appreciate being on with you, Skipper, and TC. Thanks.
Now, just start us off. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why people should be paying attention to your race.
Well, a little about myself, huh? So my name's Don Bolduc. I live in New Hampshire. I was born and raised here in New Hampshire. I grew up on a farm not too far from where I live now in Stratham, New Hampshire, Laconia, New Hampshire. And learned my work ethic working on our family farm, dairy farm, maple syrup farm, produce farm. Did a number of other things on the farm as well, raised buffalo in the later years as we transitioned out of a dairy farm. But I've been a Granite Stater my whole life, served my nation for 33 and a half years. I was a police officer in 1980 in Laconia, the town I grew up in. And I believe in public service, and I've dedicated my life to that. And I think we're in a position now in this country where we need public servants, not self-servants, not career politicians. And we need people down in Washington, D.C. that know how to get things done, that have a proven record of getting things done, and will serve the people, not themselves.
Well, thanks. That was a great interview. You said everything we need to know to get everybody to vote for you for president in 2024. So
Thanks.
Now, we're all veterans here, and I think we all have our own different types of activism that we all do. I do a lot of veteran advocacy. TC has been doing a lot of advocacy up in Minnesota, where he's living right now. And, I know a lot of the veterans that tune into our show really want to hear about how you think the status of the country is going right now, because we have a lot of partisan divide.
Yes, we do. And I think the country is going in the wrong direction. And I think we've been seeing this for quite some time now. I think the 4 years that President Trump was president, he tried to get it to go in the right direction. Unfortunately, he didn't get another 4 years to be able to continue down that road. So now we have an interruption. And I think that over the last 50 years, our nation has worked hard to take God out of the public square, to undermine families, to undermine our education, and to do everything it possibly can to undermine communities by taking all the power either to the state government or to the federal government away from the people. And the government of the people, by the people, for the people is gone. The idea that we believe in our principles, that we're teaching our kids to believe in inalienable rights, and all men and women are created equal. That it's equal opportunity that we're looking for, not equity of outcome or anything like that. And that we use our American philosophy in the great culture of, self-determination initiative and don't tread on me, and the belief in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to make a better country, right? And we don't use it in the present to divide people, which is what they're doing. I think we have huge problems with economic prosperity and livelihood right now. We can see it. Fiscal irresponsibility. Politicians talk about defunding the police. We should be defunding politicians, in my mind. They're not doing their job. They're not earning their pay. They're giving themselves more money, more benefits, and they're operating at the expense of everybody. And look what we're doing to our safety and security. Our country is in peril right now inside, with open borders, drugs coming into this country at unprecedented rate, illicit trafficking of weapons and human trafficking, 1.7 million illegal aliens coming in to this country. I don't care what you call them, migrants, whatever. It's illegal. It's not right. It's not good for America. We've had 4 of the largest cyber attacks we've had. Our supply chain is broken. Inflation is going out of control. And we do not have the respect of our allies like we did before as a result of Afghanistan. And we left ourselves looking weak in the eyes of China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. And we can see that by their actions. So, you know, I like to say we're in a, you know, we're at a Y intersection where we go towards American Marxism, or we can go towards, you know, our federal constitutional republic if we go to the right. And I think we need to choose the right. And the only way to do that is by getting different people in Washington, D.C.
I guess if you want to use the phrase push back a little bit there,
Sure.
General. I agree with like 99.99999% of everything you just said, except and there again, best of luck in your race. I would love to see someone like you who's clearly going to be outspoken at that federal level. But looking around, and you're a former I would assume you were on a team. So no, not for those of you who have never heard that phrase before. That's not a cheesy show from the 80s either. And especially for you, Skipper, no, that's there's more to it than the TV show. You'll understand this in a way that a lot of people wouldn't, that when special ops guys, special forces guys, especially when they went in, they weren't focused on the big picture of changing the battlefield or changing the landscape of the battlefield into a broader spectrum of we're going to win the whole war way out there by taking out the opposing commander. Mm-hmm. The special operations focus was going in and teaching the locals how to conduct warfare at the local level, mm-hmm. and how to win their area, their city, their village, their province, whatever terminology you want to use, to win that area, take that area, hold it, and make it a stronghold. Now, at the risk of using warlike language, since I believe we're in a culture war, I want to kind of get your thoughts on what about taking the local level and getting people into those positions, people, whether they're running for office or not, but people who are activists on that more conservative side, going in and building up the bulwark of the strength of the conservative Republican mindset. And there again, not Republican as in the party, but the Republicanism in that mindset, and getting local people, taking city councils, taking school boards, taking county commissions. Do you think that should be a two-pronged assault on the culture war, or do you think we need to focus more at the federal level?
No, I don't think we win it at the federal level. I just happen to be running at that level because I've been asked by many people here in the state of New Hampshire to run. Not my idea, right? And I think that's a positive quality, right? A lot of these people feel they're entitled to be senators and congressmen and representatives, and that because they have some sort of political legacy name, or they've been doing it their whole lives, and they started at the state senate and then they went to governor and so on, and they're entitled to the next position. And I just don't believe that. You're absolutely right. It has to be grassroots, and we have to win the local level. And that's why I've joined a number of groups here in New Hampshire, Rebuild New Hampshire Integrity Group, which is focusing on elections. I'm part of our SAU 16 education activists that are trying to get different people on the school board. My wife is going to run for school board. We're working a statewide plan to do that. So we have to take over the local school boards if we're going to drive any positive change in education. We have to get more representatives and senators at the state level. And in New Hampshire, we have 4 Democrats 2 representatives and 2 senators in Washington, D.C., and it's way out of balance. They claim to be moderates, but everything they do is support, the very extreme progressive views of things. So your point is spot on. It's well taken, and it's something that we're working here, and I'm involved in identifying candidates, encouraging candidates to run. Yesterday, I was at the Rochester GOP, where we had representatives from all the wards, and they introduced themselves. And, the tables were complete with people running for police commission, people running for school board, people running for city council. The gentleman running for mayor for Rochester didn't show up. He had a conflict in his schedule, but nonetheless, we got that covered. Attended by quite a few representatives and a number of people that were independents, which is unbelievable. You just don't see independents coming to a GOP event. And so, that's really good. And then we had 3 congressional candidates for the Congressional District 1, which is where we're at here. And then I'm the only Senate candidate, so I was there. So we had the federal, state, and local level covered, because that's the only way we're going to make change. And I submit to you, the local level is the most important.
I love to. I'm sure Skipper to some degree would agree with that, but I love to hear you say that. I had done a video series on my personal YouTube channel that actually got Skipper and I connected, and then we got to talking about, and a lot of what I was talking about in that series was the threat to the Republic by the way of threat to the military. With people are going to call me a conspiracy theorist, and Skipper knows why, but there is a marked inculcation of Marxist ideology into the recruitment level of the military. It doesn't matter what branch you're dealing with. The commercials have all been, you and I are old enough to remember the old commercials of Be All You Can Be and for the Army recruitment and whatnot. And now it's very much a social justice warrior mentality that they're catering to. And people are told me I was overreacting as I started that series, and I haven't finished it yet because I've been kind of waiting to see some of the stuff that's happening. But over the last couple of weeks, we've heard of people in all the branches being booted or threatened with imprisonment for refusing things like the coof jab. That's the thing. I don't say it because YouTube will kick us off if we use the wrong words. And now the rank and file are rising up and saying, actually, no, we're going to refuse this. Do you see that playing out well for the active duty enlisted individuals and the commissioned officers who are saying, no, we're going to refuse. So if you're going to boot us, but you can't fight a war without us and you need us? Or do you think they'll just easily replace them with a new crop of people coming in who think the way they want them to think?
Well, my fear is twofold on both those things, is that we're going to get the guys that we have trained, the guys that, we need in the military are going to end up either being forced out or they're just going to get out and then being replaced, if they can be replaced, because remember, recruiting numbers are down substantially and significantly. And so retention rates, I have 2 sons who fall in the category of, they don't want to get the shot. They don't feel they need the shot. I agree with them. There's no operational reason that the military should be forcing this shot. This is 2021, not 1921. We know the operational risks out there, and COVID isn't one of them. And it's a shot, right? We all know it's not a vaccination. We just lost Colin Powell reportedly because of COVID complications, and he had the shot, right? So this doesn't prevent anyone from getting COVID like a vaccine does, right? It's a shot like the flu shot. And every time I got the flu shot, I got the flu, right? It wasn't until I retired in 2017 and stopped getting the flu shot that I stopped getting the flu. So, show me the operational reason for it, and show me why young, healthy men and women have to get this shot, have to get a virus that, we want them to have strong immunities because they go into countries that have such nasty stuff in it that we're worried about even more, but we want them to build up immunities to viruses. We don't want them not to, and we don't want to have to turn around and give everybody shots or medication every 5 minutes either. So I think the whole narrative with this shot is bad for the military. It looks bad for the senior leaders. The CRT, the putting of these nonsense books on reading lists of admirals and generals is wrong. The fact that they completely botched the withdrawal from Afghanistan, they're making us look weak. The recruiting commercials are weak. You look at other countries' recruiting commercials and they're about fire and maneuver and close with and destroy the enemy, using our technology, using all that high-speed stuff and bringing it together, to demonstrate that you don't want to mess with us. We're highly trained. We're very effective. We have the technology, and you're going to lose. No, instead, we put milquetoast commercials on, and it makes us look weak. And it's peace through strength, right? I mean, it's always going to be that way because it's the nature of man. I wish I could change that nature, but apparently we can't. And we have 5,000 years of history of proof, so come on, let's get real here. Stop using the military as a social experiment. And I think that we should take all the 4 stars all the way down through to 2 stars and get rid of them.
I do want to piggyback off something you said, General, because this year we have lost more service members to suicide than
That's
what
right.
we lost to COVID.
That's right. And in 2018 study shows that we've lost over a battalion's worth of men and women to suicide across our components, reserve, National Guard, and active duty. And that's absolutely wrong. And so that should tell you that there's a huge problem that needs to be addressed, right? That they're not addressing. What
would you do if you win your race? What would you specifically try to do?
I want to sit on the Senate Armed Services Committee, and I want to bring in these, the Secretary of Defense and the generals and grill them on this. Listen, I was a general. All these guys that are there right now, I either worked for at a previous time or I worked with. So guess what? I know them and they know me, and I'm not a bullshit artist, right? I will take it to them. I will give them, I know how to ask generals questions, right? And I'm going to bring them in there and I'll be respectful because I'm a respectful person, but I suffer no fools, and I'm not in awe of a uniform with a bunch of ribbons on it or a uniform with a bunch of stars on it, right? So that's the problem we have, is for 20 years, we haven't asked the generals hard questions. For 20 years, we haven't held them accountable for bad policy and bad strategy. And our civilian leadership, the same way. And that needs to stop. And it's only going to stop if you get people in there that know what questions to ask, what right looks like, and know when they're getting sunshine, blown up their dress, right?
Absolutely. I've noticed that there's been these systemic problems, and they're starting to really show in the military, like with Fort Hood and with other bases. I know before I left active duty, I witnessed senior officer misconduct, watched it get reported, and nothing done about it. And that has a trickle down effect, in my opinion. Do you think the officer corps right now is broken?
I think I do. I think the senior officer corps is broke. I do. And I've said it and I've written articles about it. I said it on active duty. I don't think we select our guys properly. It's a good old boy system. It's a club. When I got promoted to general, I was welcomed to a club. Now this club has rules, and the rules are, one general can't say no to another general, right? Rule number 1. Rule number 2, go along to move along. Rule number 3, find a 3 or 4 star general that you can get on their coattails so they can pull you up, give you more, you become just like them. You now think like them, act like them, and you're going to support and protect everything they've done, right? Right, wrong, or indifferent, okay? And it's called organizational nepotism, right?
Yep.
And it's hurt our military. And we need to redesign the military. The whole Department of Defense needs to be reformed. It hasn't been reformed, since World War II, really. We've
Not in
had
a positive sense.
we had Goldwater Nichols, which made us joint and did some stuff for special ops, but even the special operations community is out of whack, and it needs to be, have the reins pulled back in on it. And so the Department of Defense is just too big. It's too unwieldy. It doesn't spend its money right. It doesn't do procurement right. It doesn't do research and development right. It does it on old McNamara, era kind of ideas and approaches and paradigms. And, it's just we waste money. I'm not advocating taking money away from the Department of Defense. I'm advocating changing the system so that we spend the money better, properly. We don't need 4 different kinds of uniforms if we're all on the ground doing the same thing, right? For instance, we don't need 4 different types of communications equipment. Everything needs to be much more compatible. Each service doesn't need its own weapon, right? These kind of things save a lot of money. These kind of things standardize things, right? It makes it more interoperable.
Former logistics officer here. You're talking my language.
Yeah. So, but nobody knows that there, right? Because less than 18% of Congress has served their country to any extent to be able to ask the questions that they need to ask, right? And as far as I'm concerned, what was the follow-up in the testimony with Milley and McKinsey and the SecDef? Nothing. It was theater. It was a show. So some senators and some congressmen could ask some, I don't know, some questions that got everybody all fired up. But at the end of the day, they're still there, right? And here's the dangerous part. Who are you going to replace them with? Because I submit you the person that's there now that would replace them isn't any better than they are, right? So, because to your point, I believe the military at the senior levels is broke. Every time they want to solve a problem, they look down. Right?
Absolutely.
They don't look in the mirror. They look down. Oh, the problem's down there.
Everything becomes mandatory training and just kind of pencil
whip. A laundry list of stuff that we can never get done. So we start lying to ourselves because you can't get it done. But if you don't get it done, then it's a ding and, your career's over. I mean, it's stupidity. This army strong, this army of one, listen, it's be all you can be. We want a soldier, we want a Marine to be all they can be. We want them to be hard. We want them to have self-determination initiative, never quit. This is what we want them to be. We don't want to change these terms because, it sounds better or the logo looks better or what have you. It's not the way to establish, train, organize, and sustain an army. It's not.
Absolutely. We're getting close to our time. So TC, I'm going to let you have the last question.
Skipper, I just want to point out that the general's dogs are manlier than yours, by the way. So, sir, you bring up a point that I've been talking about for quite a while, and it's not, and I want people to understand that it's not just in the military. When you look at some of these problems when it comes to senior leadership, and you mentioned having been in law enforcement, it's the exact same problem in the ranks of law enforcement in the United States today. And there's a massive disconnect between the rank and file people in the military and the command structure. There's a massive disconnect in the rank and file people in law enforcement and the senior command or supervisory staff in those situations. And it seems, we can sit here and we can throw back and forth these different ideas of what do you do to fix it? But there's almost a fundamental sea change that has to take place, I think, for any kind of impact to be made. And how much, and so looking at those two ideas of the when you think about people in service areas, especially law enforcement and the military, when we know that the command structure is, I'll go further and not say just broken, it's corrupt in a lot of ways. How do you change that when you know that the people who would replace the ones that go first are also themselves going to come in with the same mentality? Do you almost have to do a complete, I don't want to use a radical term, but almost completely expunge the senior leadership and bring up some major who's just come up out of special forces, or and promote him into a colonel's position or something like that, and saying, look, we're picking you because you've taken a hard stand and you're not afraid to call BS when you see it. Or because I don't know how we change this unless we do. We almost have to cut all of that weight from the top.
Well, I'm prepared to go back to the way George Catlett Marshall did it, General Marshall, leading up to World War II. He did exactly that. As you know, back then, the Chief of Staff of the Army was a 1-star, right? And I think that his method was, hey, service to nation, service to the people in our nation, service to your the military, and then to the people in the military, and then as a general officer, leader, or an admiral, you're last, right? Okay. Since Vietnam, that has been turned around where they put themselves first, right? And so what Marshall did was he did exactly that. He got rid of all the generals, right? And he did a study. He actually went out on a boat. Got away from everybody, went out on a boat. He had an advisor with him. They went through and they looked at the right people. That's how Lieutenant Colonel Eisenhower and Bradley and those guys went from those ranks up to general officer to lead us through World War II, because he wanted the right people, and he went out and found the right people. And so he did just what you said. And people say to him, some people pushed back a little bit and they go, well, that'll ruin our military. Well, how is it going to ruin our military? Well, you just can't take all the leadership out. And I said, why? We do it every 4 years. We do it every 8 years. We change administrations. We take 6 to 9 months to change an entire country's leadership, right? The secretaries, the ambassadors, and everybody else. We don't seem to miss a beat, so
sometimes we function better with less of them in place, actually. So,
and there's a good thing to say for that. I think there's too many of them, right? There's a lot of them. There's too many of them. And so I think we need to go back to the George Catlett Marshall model of what a senior leader is supposed to be and how we pick them. And here's something brilliant. Some generals aren't meant to be wartime commanders. Just because you're a general doesn't mean you should be commanding in a combat environment. Some of them were excellent trainers and they were left to train, right? And then the other thing that we've done to senior leaders that has been fatal is the slightest mistake they make, they're replaced. I mean, it's that cutthroat, right? There's just so many of them up there vying for the positions and, trying to backstab the guy around them, and if you make one little mistake, well, I'll see you later. So what has that done? Every time there's an incident, every time there's a problem, what do the general officers do? They circle the wagons and they protect themselves and they look for someone lower in the chain.
I heard we need to protect the general way too many times in my career.
Yeah, protect the general, right? Well, he's a big boy. He should be able to protect himself, right? That's, that's just my position on it. And having been one, that's what you do. You look, generals, as soon as you create a general officer billet, you are now creating more bureaucracy that operates against the ability of the people to do their job on the ground, because it's a sucking sound. And
yes,
we just have too many general officer headquarters, and we're not picking them correctly. So they're not performing right. And, Marshall would fire somebody, or Eisenhower would fire somebody, or Bradley would fire somebody, and they'd go to another job. And if they worked hard, they would get another chance, right? I mean, I've read accounts of guys going, being a 1 or 2-star general, getting demoted to colonel, and then working their way back up and retiring as lieutenant generals. I mean, that's the kind of leader we want, someone that, he makes a mistake. Okay, hey, you're going to go back here and you're going to figure it out. And if you work hard, you can work your way back. We don't do that in our Army anymore.
The best way to select leaders, honestly, is just to go to the Airborne Corps and pick all your leaders from there.
Well, there you go.
Well, we're starting to come up against our time, gentlemen. So, General, if you could give us all of your places where people can find you, where they can donate to your campaign, where they can follow along with as you go on this journey.
Sure. So first is my website, www.donbolduc.com. On Twitter, it's at Gen, Gen, donbolduc.com. On Facebook, it's supporters of donbolduc.com. And please join that. Follow me. Go to my website. See what I stand for.
Absolutely.
Send me a note. Ask me questions. Any amount of money that you donate is a plus, right? I didn't create this business. It takes money to run for office, right? I wish it didn't, but it does.
I will absolutely extend you an invite whenever you want to come back on the show. Reach out to us. We'd love to have you on. I really enjoyed the discussion. TC, I think you did as well. And thank you very much for joining us.
It's my honor to join you. Thank you for what you're doing. We didn't get a chance to talk about Lieutenant Colonel Scheller, but that's a whole thing that really.
Let's plan that. In fact, I've already reached out to him. We're trying to get him on the show.
Well, good. Next time I come on, which I do want to come on, and I'll tell Jimmy to make sure that we plug it in, we can have a conversation about that and about
absolutely
other things like the Niger investigation and how our senior leaders are conducting investigations and doing things to service members and holding them accountable without holding themselves accountable.
Absolutely.
Big problem.
I can't believe that happens.
Well, to all of our fans out there, I want to thank you for joining us. We will have the General back, as you just heard. And again, follow along with our conversation. Follow the General on social media. And for all of you out there who are fans of the show, thank you for being worth serving.